first morning together. So just remember that you're you've changed your life considerably. So be very patient with whatever comes up. You might feel quite often it's very common to feel very sleepy and you're just fighting sleepiness or feel restless. So um, surrender to the structure, to the form, allow it to do what it does, and be kind to yourself. Don't make huge demands on achievements or success, and just to allow, like if sleepiness is such a boring state of mind, isn't it? It's like you can't get in the game. Um, but that's what, if it's there, that's what you're learning from, or restlessness or whatever. So if your mind starts to say, "Oh, this isn't working," or "I'm not getting anywhere," don't believe that, because you are developing presence, you're developing mindfulness, you're developing awareness, even though the conditions might not be, the internal conditions might be difficult to deal with. Well, a retreat is a it's a workshop, isn't it? You're learning about your mind, you're learning about meditation, and it's not an intellectual thing. So there's a difference between conceptual understanding. Please be on time. Yom, please be on time. Don't come late. Okay. Thank you. Um, like you can read a manual about driving a car. You can watch a YouTube on driving a car. But it's different than actually driving a car. We all know that. So this is like learning how to please be on time. Don't come late, please. Okay, I'll get the retreat going correctly. So everyone, please be here before 8:30 so I can start teaching in that way. Thank you. Um, so conceptually, you might understand something, but you might not know how to drive the car, correct? Obviously. So we're learning how to drive the car in that sense. So if you feel sleepy, that's part of learning how to drive the car. Um, so we have like formal meditation, and then we have just the things that we do in between the meditations. Um, so formal meditation, we have this morning session, afternoon session, and I would really recommend like the afternoon session. It's quite a long session. It's from what, 2 to 5 or something? 2 to 5. That's 3 hours. It's not so long, but try to really use those 3 hours in a way where you're not reading, you're not having a break for a cup of tea, you're not sneaking over to the internet and having a look at your Facebook. You're just doing formal practice. And so that over those 3 hours, you're constantly reminding yourself it's about being awake and knowing, walking, meditation, sitting, lying. And in terms of craft, because I do see this as a kind of a craft, like I do a lot of weaving now, and I used to do a lot of woodwork. You just have to do it a lot to be good at it. To drive a car, you have to do it a lot to be good at it. I imagine someone from Ottawa driving a car in Bangkok would be terrified. But I asked Yon Vibun, do you find stressful driving in Bangkok? He says, no, I like it. Really? So that's training, doing. So when you have like a 3 hour session, 2 to 5, you're really training the mind to come to awakeness, to come to witnessing, rather than engaging in responsibilities or externalities. You need to do that, sure. So over a 3 hour period of time, you've established a lot of barami in terms of the awakened mind. That's the methodology in the mornings too. And then if you have more energy, like if you're not sleepy, you try to extend that like from tea time till the evening meditation. And then if you have more energy, you can go beyond. But you don't want to push yourself unreasonably, but you really want to, I think, use this time for formal practice, sitting, walking, lying down. And that's the way of the forest tradition. It's the way, like Luang Por Chah, as I always say, he told me to stop reading. Really? Stop reading? Shouldn't I study? He said, no, you have too many ideas. And so and the encouragement I've always had is, can you go to the silence of the mind rather than to the intellect and to thought? I'm not dismissing intellect. Intellect is important, but it's very hard to touch the silence of the heart, isn't it? Very, very hard. And that's what I think we're trying to move to. So in terms of the postures, you have, first of all, the sitting posture. Try to develop a posture where you're comfortable. Because if you're in a lot of pain, you won't last for very long. And that might be on the floor. It might be like, I need a chair now. I mean, I could sit on the floor, but at the end of the retreat, my knees would be killing me. So I sit on a chair. It took me a long time. I don't want to sit on a chair. I want to sit on the floor. I'm a forest monk or something like that. Now I have two chairs. A very nice chair. That the old people got me this chair. Um, so it's not about asceticism. It's not about being a gang. It's not about all of that. It's about, can you establish a posture that is relatively comfortable and awake, where you can witness the way the internal mind is moving, okay, or the body is feeling. That's all. So that's worth the effort. If you're sitting in a chair, if you're falling asleep, then you need to sit at the edge of your chair. If you're falling asleep, you're getting comfortable, you're doing that, you need to sit at the edge of the chair. If you're very, very tense and you're trying too hard, you need to relax in the chair. Relax, sitting on the floor, the same thing. And this is all learning how to drive the car. That's all it is. So posture is important. Um, then if you understand how to have a good posture, then you'll find in a sitting meditation, if you're used to sitting, say, half an hour, and the clock is set for 45 minutes, after about an hour, I thought, maybe the alarm isn't working this morning. I thought, oh, I'll just wait. And then when I looked. Anyway, normally what happens is, say, after half an hour of meditation, you will probably anticipate the end of the meditation. This is the way the mind works. Now, if you're not aware of anticipation as an object, if you're not witnessing, you become the anticipation itself, and that is becoming. Now, what is non-becoming? If we look at this language, what the first two is unborn and non-becoming. Is that it? The unbecome and the unborn. So just think in terms of that. If you are, okay, half an hour of the meditation goes through, and you're kind of with it, and then you start to perceive, is it finished yet? Especially if you have pain or if you have discomfort. So that perception comes up, how much more time? Now that is just a perception. That's just an object in awareness, and it's born. It's born into consciousness because of time. Now, if you attach to that perception of, is this retreat? Oh, it's like it must have been all for all of you this morning. When is he going to ring the bell? Um, but you can see how, if I'm not aware that that is just a perception, then I pick it up, and then what I do, I create time. What time is it? Well, it's how much longer are we going to sit? My knees are in pain. Should I move? Should I not move? Should I just get up? Should I go? That's birth. That's birth. You become a time-bound being who is now thinking about time and so on, which is not illegal. It's not against the precepts, but it's not inclining to nibbana, but to the unborn. It's inclining to bhava, to the born. That's happening all the time. Very simple. So if in your meditation you have enough mindfulness to say, oh, anticipation of time, say, whatever, however you want to define that, or thinking about time feels like this. Oh, it's like it's kind of got a tension in it. Oh, it feels like this. Then you're not born into it. So there's the unborn. And the unborn is always about awareness. The born is about self and becoming. It's a simple example, and it'll happen in every most meditation, unless your meditation is very, very relaxed and calm. Most meditations that will happen. So in every meditation, you have a chance to contemplate birth and the unborn. What is the unborn? Well, it's not a thing. It can't be a thing. So it's the language is very, very difficult. So one of the ways as you know, I try to encourage that contemplation is that this experience is in awareness. What do I mean by that? I'm sitting here and I have visual perception, and I see one person is distant, handling the computer. So there's distance. And then I see some person is closer. There's distance, there's perception, there's color. And then I can listen to sound. So there's sound over there, or the sound all around. So the spatial perception of sound. So you could say that I am here and the person operating the computer is over there. It's true. But there's another way to perceive this, and that you could say that this whole experience of sound, sight, whatever, is in awareness. Now, that's not a common perception. The common perception is I'm here and you're there. And I'm not saying that's not true. That is true. And your experience is your experience, my experience is my experience. But there is a way also of saying that this experience is in awareness. And that brings you to space, to conscious space. And that begins to incline to kind of perceive what we mean by the unborn. Awareness itself, conscious knowing, conscious space. So the analogy that you get, or the metaphor you get a lot in religious literature, is space and form. So we have the space in this room, and we have the objects, people, color, sound, and so on. And in terms of our own minds, thoughts, emotions, and memories. And those are objects which are born and they die. Now, what is unborn? What is unborn? Well, it has to be something about awareness, because awareness is, say, conscious space, if you perceive it that way. Now, you can believe that or disbelieve that, but what I am encouraging is more like an experimenting. So if you're sitting in meditation and you are anticipating the end of the city, that's an object that came. If you have enough awareness to say that this object is in awareness, you identify more as the awareness. If you identify with the thinking mind, you identify more with time, with the perception of time, with when is it going to end? Can I move? Can I not move? And there is the birth of self, the birth of being, the birth of a person. And then the bell rings, and that being ceases, say, and then there's maybe coffee. I'll have a coffee. And then you think about having a coffee, and you do. So reborn as a Rabaka Javasattva, as the coffee deva, and you go over there. And then you have the coffee, and then you remember a problem in the family. And the problem arises, oh gosh, what are we going to do about that? Well, what if we do this? And then there's a rebirth again as the worrier, and so on, ad infinitum. And we need to live in the world, and we need to do these things. But now on this retreat, what we're trying to remember, I would say, is the unborn, because the unborn you can't find in time. It doesn't make any sense, because it's always here and now. Amata Dhamma, Akalika Dhamma. So when you're meditating, try to if it makes sense to you, try to cultivate this perception of this is in awareness. The very desire to get something is in awareness. A lot of us have been conditioned to try to attain, right? You hear about Sotapatti, Anagami, Sakadagami, Arahant, Jhana, Iti, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 jhana. So you have or you have an experience which you had in one retreat. So there's a lot in the culture which is sort of, or you read about some famous teacher who's had fantastic experiences and seems to be enlightened. And so there's a lot in our culture, Buddhist culture, about attainment. And people will say to me, I just want to, all I want this lifetime is sotapatti. That's all I want. It's like a kind of handbag. Is that what we're looking for? The kind of high so handbag? Is that what, because that's what the mind is doing. It's a very materialistic mind. That's called spiritual materialism. So yeah, if I get sotapatti, then yeah, the next lifetime maybe I can get an anagami. That'd be nice. And you can make it ridiculous, and I don't want to make those states of mind ridiculous because they are serious, but that's the way culture conditioned us towards the very idea of attainment. Now, in terms of unborn and unbecoming, that doesn't make sense to me. Unbecoming, it can't be about me getting something later on, because that to me implies ego, Sakkaya Ditthi, and a state which I'm going to get, like a thing, like an object. So in terms of, and this is how I use this sutta, I use it as a kind of reflection on what kind of attitudes I'm bringing up into my practice and what kind of efforts. So is my effort to become something does not fit unbecoming. Yeah. So there's a kind of logical consistency in right, I think right view, right understanding, and then right effort. If I mean, that logic affects me. I don't know if it affects you, but the logic of unbecome and unborn it creates for me a certain understanding, a certain, hopefully, samaditi, right understanding. And then from samaditi, I'm going to have samasankappa or right effort or right thought from that understanding. Now, if I have wrong understanding, then my thoughts and my efforts are becoming from wrong understanding. So right understanding is it's not a kind of final thing, but it is the motivator for right practice. And when I take on board the Nibbana Sutta, unborn, unbecoming, then if I see I'm trying to get something, I say, no, that can't be it. And then I say, yeah, but this whole sense of trying to get something is in awareness. Then I realize, oh, that's the unbecome, the awareness itself, which is, so I use the analogy of background and foreground. Yeah. So this is what we mean by contemplation. And then you have to drive the car. So that's the theory. And then in your meditation, then you'll find there be like the pressure of trying to get rid of something or trying to become something, which is tanha. And tanha cannot work because tanha is always about going out into the object, doing something, getting rid of something. Whereas ploy wang or relaxed attention or welcoming awareness, different kind of language we use, that's going to the background. So I find background, foreground is very, very helpful metaphor and structure. And the way I come to the background is in various ways, but one of the ways I say that this experience is in awareness. So may I suggest today that whatever practice you like to use, and please do what works for you as always, but can you just experiment with that this experience is in awareness. And when I do that, then the whole sense of sound is in awareness. So just do that with me now. Listen to sound. Notice that sound is changing. Notice that sound is in awareness. Feel your breathing. Feel your breathing. Notice the breath is changing. Notice that the breath is in awareness. Listen to sound. Notice that sound is in awareness. Feel your breath. Breath is in awareness. Now, the awareness didn't change. The objects changed. The awareness didn't change. So that, to me, is important. The background is the unchanging. The foreground is changing. So in terms of postures, then you also have the walking meditation. And if you have difficulties with walking, then you can't do all the walking. But if you have a fairly robust body, then try to stay for 45 minutes of the walking. Some people find walking much more conducive as opposed to sitting. So you can do it all afternoon if you want. But the idea of a posture is you're contained. You know, you're contained in a structure of 20 paces, and then rather than looking around, usually the way we're taught in the first edition is to keep your gaze just in front of you, maybe 2 meters, and contain your gaze. Like, just because what you're doing is you're doing what we call Dhammanupassana Satipatthana. You're looking at the Dhammas of the mind. You're trying to be internal now rather than external. So if you're a bird watcher, then hopefully you didn't bring your binoculars. But you're like, if I go to an environment where there's a lot of new birds, I can't meditate. But we're not ornithologists, or we're not botanists now. That's another time in another place. We're contemplatives, and we're just trying to see the movement of the mind and the movement of the body and be the witness. Very simple witnessing. So in walking 20 paces, the end of the path breaks up your thinking mind, because that's the hard thing, isn't it? The endless proliferation of the thinking mind, making problems, whatever it does. So you get to the end of the path, notice the stopping, really establish awareness rather than go, I'm thinking too much. And I just and come to listening. Listening is very, very good. You just listen and establish, oh, puru, it's like this. And then turn around. And if you do that for 45 minutes, it's rigorous. It's not interesting, it's rigorous. But if you do it for 45 minutes, then the momentum of the awake mind becomes stronger. And if you do it for 9 days, that's the idea. Then you switch postures, then you sit, and it's the same thing. People ask, what am I supposed to be doing? Well, same thing. Witnessing, aware of the way things are. Then if you want to try Yoga Nidra, the lying posture, that's very, very good, but be careful not to lose your sitting posture. I've been doing so much Yoga Nidra that I can't sit anymore. So be careful. But anyway, that's another story. Yoga Nidra is lying meditation, and it's legal. It's okay. It's allowed, but it's hard to stay awake. And the way I've learned to do it is to lay in Sarasana, corpse posture, get my neck and chin nicely placed, put a pillow under my knees, so that takes the stress off my lower back. And then I adjust my posture, and then I say to myself, now don't move. And the secret of the Yoga Nidra is the instruction to not move. You give yourself that instruction, you're comfortable. Within 20 seconds, you'll want to move. You'll think, oh, I can be a little more comfortable, or I need to itch this or scratch that. Don't do that. So the very desire to move becomes the object of awareness, because you've made a determination not to move. Not in a harmful way, So you're lying there, and then you want to do this. No, no, don't do anything. And then mindfulness gets very strong. Now, a lot of people will, of course, fall asleep. And if you're a back sleeper, you're at a disadvantage. If you're a side sleeper, you have the advantage. If you're a back sleeper, you'll probably wake yourself up with snoring, which is okay. Then you just start again. So if so sometimes you'll be doing yoga nidra and you'll hear something, you know, and this is good because your mind has actually settled into a more calm state. So don't worry about it. But see if you can do that if you want. And this is very good for like people with arthritis or like um, walking issues or things like that. Because you want to develop a posture that you can take right, right to the end of your life. And yoga nidra is that. Some people find themselves, they've rolled over on their side and they've fallen asleep and they haven't actually noticed that they've rolled over on their side. So for some people, it's a difficult posture. But if you'd like to experiment with that, some people do. Standing, I don't practice standing meditation. My knees are a bit wonky. So anyone who knows Qigong and the practices around that, like Lumpo Sichito or maybe Yom Jim, you probably know standing meditation and so on. So good posture. Um, but the main thing is to sustain the witnessing consciousness for long, long periods of time, right? So that's sort of the background. So today's homework is to raise the perception that this experience is in awareness. So your identity becomes more and more as conscious space rather than thought content or ego content or self content. So I'm sitting here and half an hour goes by and then I think, oh, the old man's forgotten about the clock again, that old monk. And should I move? Should I not move? This experience of anticipation is in awareness. You come to the space. Or, oh, should I move? Should I not move? What time is it? Oh gosh, it's 4 o'clock. I don't know. How much longer do I have to sit? Oh, I must try harder. That's attachment. And then you notice that you say, yeah, but this feeling of anticipation is in awareness. You're walking from here to the kitchen and you start thinking about family life or business life. What are we going to do? This worry is in awareness. You come to the open space of the background. You remember something that you said to someone which was not kind and you feel guilty. Feeling of guilt comes up. This is in awareness. In awareness, in awareness. It's very simple, but hard to do. Okay, that's a lot. Stretch your legs a bit and we'll do some meditation, or if you want. Let's see if this works. I don't know why it didn't work last. Okay, we'll sit for 45 minutes, hopefully. So I'd like to do a body meditation, and this isn't a concentration meditation. It's using the same ideas where you localize your attention on a part of the body, and then you say that it's in awareness rather than focusing on a particular part in the body. So let's see if this has value. So begin by listening to sound and let the sound come to you. So we're not concerned about the quality of sound, and we're not trying to listen to something. We're just allowing sound to be there. So listening, notice the changing nature of sound. And perceive sound as in awareness. And you start to get the perception of Awareness as space, conscious space. Sound is in awareness. Now, if you're trying to hear a sound, then you kind of then you're usually in some kind of stressful mode. But it's relaxed, welcoming, whatever sounds, open, and yang yang. It's like this. Apply the same principle to bodily feelings. So feel your face. Allow the feelings in the face to become conscious. Localize your attention to your mouth and allow the sensations in the mouth to become conscious in awareness. So at first there's nothing, and then you start to feel the lips or the tongue or whatever, teeth. And this is in awareness. Localize your attention on your ears. So the feeling sensations in the ears become conscious. Maybe there's something, maybe there's nothing. Make conscious the feelings in the nose. So the bridge of the nose, the nostrils. And this is in awareness. Start to notice that awareness is unchanging. It's the background. Make conscious the feelings in the eyes. Eyes are very sensitive. Maybe there's a lot of tension and pressure. Notice the eye sockets and the eyes themselves. And this is in awareness. Feel the temples. Maybe pressure or stress and tightness. Let that be conscious. And that's in awareness. Feel the top of the head. Feel the back of the head. Now feel the whole head as one changing mass of sensations. And the head is in awareness. Notice sound. Sound is in awareness. Notice the head. And notice that awareness is unchanging. Feel the neck. Now the shoulders. Feel your left shoulder. Let that become conscious. So you localize your attention and then you wait, and then things become conscious in awareness. So notice we're not trying to become anything or get anything. We're just noticing the way things are. Feel your upper arm, left side, and left elbow, left forearm, left wrist, and the left hand. Make conscious shoulder to hand, left side, and that is in awareness. And the right side, right shoulder, upper arm, right elbow, forearm, hand. Whole right side, changing sensations in awareness. Feel your torso, the body, go to the chest. Feel the front of the chest. Feel the rib cage. Feel the spine, the back, the organs inside, the lungs and the heart. In awareness, awareness is unchanging. The body is changing. Lower in the torso, the abdomen, stomach, front of the lower, that area. Lower rib cage, lower spine, and the organs inside. So it doesn't really matter what manifests there. You're just localizing your attention, staying in the moment. Feel the pelvic area, pelvic bones, and the organs in the pelvic area. Make conscious that area. And this is in awareness. The left hip and the left thigh, the left knee, calf and shin, left ankle, left foot. Let that be conscious in awareness. So witnessing the body in awareness. Right hip, right thigh, the right knee, shin, calf, ankle, foot, right side. Now kind of step out and notice the whole body and perceive the body as in awareness. Listen to sound. Sound is an awareness. So body, sound are objects in awareness, changing. And what is unchanging, what is unborn, unbecome, awareness of the way things are. So be that awareness, be aware. So you can return to that pattern, or you can just use what you usually use, the breath. But the most important thing is that this is taking place in awareness. And then when the thinking mind starts to create the past and the future, when you notice that, somehow just say to yourself, this thought is in awareness. So you relax away from the thinking mind, away from the sense of self, into the silent knowing of awareness. So experiment with that. See how that works.